Ready?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to load so I can use that for myself. Okay, great. Hello everybody, and welcome to A Seasonal Chemist and His Soda, a collection of three short student-written plays. My name is Emily Smith.
And I'm Elizabeth Swetland. We're going to be presenting three short plays written by Pacific students here for you tonight. The first one will be Soda in a Wine Glass by Emily Smith. The second will be Upon the Eating of Oysters, or A Chemist and His Cannibals by Charles Delplanche. And the last will be Seasonal Visits by Leiana Petlewski.
And first, we want to thank everybody who's watching at home, and we also want to thank all of our playwrights, our directors, and our actors for helping to make this happen. And so without further ado.
All right, first up, we have Soda in a Wine Glass by Emily Smith, directed by Abby Ryan. The role of Karen will be played by Megan Farmer, and the role of Jason will be played by Bob Stevens. Enjoy.
Soda in a Wine Glass by Emily Smith. Characters, Karen and Jason. Time, the evening of Karen and Jason's 10th wedding anniversary. Place, a cheap Italian restaurant. There is a table on the stage with a checkered tablecloth. On it there is a candle, a basket of breadsticks, and 2 wine glasses filled with soda. Karen and Jason sit across from one another, holding hands.
I love you.
I love you.
I love your eyes.
I love your hair.
I love that you love me.
I love that you picked somewhere affordable for our anniversary. I also love that you ordered us soda, sweetie.
I'm glad you like it. I was worried the candle would be too much.
Oh, believe me, it's not.
We're so cute.
We're so perfect. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
How was job hunting today?
It was great. How was work today?
So great.
Is that new eyeshadow?
Yeah.
It's very bold.
Thank you. I love how observant you are. We're so cute.
So perfect.
Karen goes to take a breadstick.
I love that you don't care about how many carbs you eat.
Karen looks him dead in the eye and takes a bite of the breadstick.
We are so cute.
So perfect.
I love that you're always so honest with me about everything, even your affair.
Don't sell yourself short, honey. You had the courage to tell me about your Botox. I love you.
You know what I love about you?
I'm sure you'll tell me.
It's how good you are at saving money.
I love how you always voice your opinions.
I love you first, sweetie, dear.
I love that we like all the same movies.
I love that we enjoy the same foods.
I love that we have the same values.
I love that you're always honest with me.
What did you think of the weather today?
It was good. You?
Good. We are so cute.
So perfect.
I'm so lucky to have you.
I can't imagine life without you.
You always remind me of what I should be doing.
You always take such a relaxed approach to things.
I love that no matter how much makeup you put on, your face still looks natural.
I love that you take risks in the kitchen.
I love how we'll never have a family. I love how we only have each other.
I love how you decided that we could live off of just my income. I love how selfless you are.
I love that you thought I loved my job.
I love how you always try and fix things.
I love how you always try and protect my feelings.
I love how you bring up the past.
I love that you crushed my dreams.
I love that you shattered my trust. We are so cute.
So perfect.
They fall into memory.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
It's freezing outside.
I know. I love it.
I prefer the sun.
Me too, actually.
You don't have to try to impress me.
I love you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
Wine glasses?
They're classy.
For soda?
You don't have to drink it.
No, it's perfect. I love you.
I love you. I love
I love
you.
you.
I love you.
I love you.
Was she pretty?
Come on, Karen.
Was she pretty?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. I thought you picked for her personality.
I love you.
I love you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you.
You got Botox? Seriously?
What do you want from me?
You threw an entire month of groceries down the drain.
I finally feel beautiful.
You always were.
I love you.
I love you.
I love
I
you.
love you.
I love you.
I love you.
You quit your job?
I had to.
You were barely making enough to get by. What were you thinking?
I was miserable.
Wait, that implies that you actually think.
Don't you want me to be happy?
I love you.
I love you.
I love
I
you.
love you. I love you.
I love you.
We can't have a baby, can we? Hey, it's okay.
No, it's not.
It's not your fault.
I know, but
You are all I want. And we can adopt. We can get a cat. We can do anything. I promise. It's okay.
okay.
Hey, I love you.
I love you too.
They are present with each other. They lift their glasses and toast.
Happy 10 years.
Happy 10 years.
You're so...
You're-
I...
Blackout. End of play.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Everybody give a virtual round of applause for our actors and the director and the playwright. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Everyone, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. And then next up, we have Upon the Eating of Oysters or A Chemist and His Cannibals by Charles Delplanche and directed by me, Emily Smith. And our actors are Alex Kerstetter, who will be playing the waiter/narrator, Julia Neuter, who will be playing Eugenius, and Maggie Tratine, who will be playing Linda Moore. Upon the Eating of Oysters, or A Chemist and His Cannibals, a very short play by Charles Delplanche. But first, a brief preface, wherein is provided a warning that the following work includes discussions of a rather gross nature regarding human physiology and culinary customs, and an acknowledgement that due to its verbatim nature, the following work includes outdated and potentially harmful language that reflects ideologies heartily condemned by the playwright and the performers. Characters: narrator/waiter, Eugenius, and Lindamore. A spotlight illuminates the narrator, standing alone downstage.
The following is a verbatim play, meaning that all words uttered by characters other than myself come verbatim from pre-existing texts. As such, the thoughts and opinions therein conveyed are not mine, nor those of the playwright, but rather they are those of an author long dead, the chemist Robert Boyle, whose legacy lingers on in gas and in blood, in particles and light.
The stage lights up, revealing two gentlemen seated at a table with a plate of oysters and a bowl of dipping sauce set before each one. These gentlemen, Eugenius and Lindamore, are initially frozen in place as if in a painting, with Eugenius in the act of eating an oyster and Lindamore gazing off stage as if in deep thought.
The year is 1665. Our players, Eugenius and Lindamore, are two figurative gentlemen born of pestilence and empire, long ago entombed in one of Boyle's philosophical essays, Upon the Eating of Oysters. And eat they shall, these two young mummies, even as their musings guide you, dear viewer, past parched lips and strong stomachs, through strange rituals and vile tinctures. So feast your eyes and your ears, and be patient, dear viewer, as we now attempt to satiate your appetite with story.
Exit narrator. Eugenius and Lindamore unfreeze. Eugenius eats his oysters in a slow and savory manner, while Lindamore stares off stage with a thoughtful expression. After a moment or two, Eugenius takes notice of his friend's aloofness, and after trying in vain to catch Lindamore's eye, he finishes the oyster in hand and wipes his hands and his mouth with the napkin in his lap.
Whilst everybody else is commending these oysters either with his tongue or with his teeth, so that one of the company sticks not to say that they are as much worth as if they contained each of them a pearl. You only seem as unconcerned a spectator as if you thought their proper use was like that of a flower, or rather to be looked on than to be eaten.
I confess, Eugenius, that I found myself more inclinable to reflect on what you are doing than to keep you company in it. And whilst I saw such persons so gustfully swallow these extolled fishes, the sight led me to take more notice than perhaps you have done of the strange power of education and custom.
Oh, and what, I pray you, has custom to do with oysters?
You will soon know that, if I tell you, that I was considering on this occasion how forward we are to think other nations absurd or barbarous for such practices that either the same, or little better, may be found unscrupled at among ourselves. And I acknowledge it to be one of the chief advantages I account myself to have obtained by my travels, that as I do not easily admire, so I am not forward to deride, the practice of any people for being new, and am not apt to think their customs must therefore be worse than ours, because they widely differ from them.
Lindamore pauses a moment to check in with Eugenius, who gives him an encouraging nod to continue.
I could give you store of instances to justify this impartiality, but because the circumstances of eating and drinking are those which make men with the greatest confidence term other nations brutish and barbarous, I will confine myself to some examples of that nature. We impute it for a barbarous custom to many nations of the Indians that, like beasts, they eat raw flesh. And pray, how much is that worse than our eating raw fish, as we do in eating these oysters? Nor is this a practice of the rude vulgar only, but of the politest and nicest persons among us, such as physicians, divines, and even ladies. And our way of eating seems much more barbarous than theirs, since they are wont to kill before they eat, but we scruple not to devour oysters alive, and kill them not with our hands or teeth, but with our stomachs, where, for we ought to know, they begin to be digested before they make an end of dying. Nay, sometimes when we dip them in vinegar, we may, for sauce to one bit, devour alive a school of little animals, which, whether they be fishes or worms, I am not so sure as I am that I have, by the help of convenient glasses, seen great numbers of them swimming up and down in less than a saucer full of vinegar.
Lindamore, apparently oblivious to his friend's discomfort, takes a moment to gather his thoughts. Eugenius, meanwhile, wipes his mouth with his napkin and gently pushes his plate of oysters away.
We detest and despise some other nations for feeding upon caterpillars, grasshoppers, and other insects, and others for feeding upon carrion and stinking food. And do not many of us do as bad when we not only eat, but extol rotten cheese, whose livid color sufficiently betrays its putrefaction, and whose odious smell offends most men's noses and turns some men's stomachs? Nay, when this cheese is grown to that high degree of rottenness that our critical palates like it best in, we then devour whole hundreds of mites, which are really crawling insects bred out of putrefaction, and these too are so numerous and little that our greediness makes us swallow many of them alive.
Enter waiter, who approaches the table and offers the gentleman wine. Lindamore declines, but Eugenius accepts. As Lindamore continues his musings, the waiter pours the wine and subsequently begins to walk off stage.
Among the savagest barbarians we count the cannibals. And as for those among them that kill men to eat them, their inhumane cruelty cannot be too much detested. But to count them as barbarous merely upon the score of feeding on man's flesh and blood is to forget that woman's milk, by which alone we feed our sucking children, is, according to the received opinion, but blanched blood, and that mummy is one of the usual medicines commended and given by our physicians for falls and bruises, and in other cases too.
Eugenius and Lindamore freeze in place as the waiter, now the narrator, addresses the audience.
It is worth taking a moment to clarify that modern scientists no longer consider blood and milk to be so similar in composition, and it is worth emphasizing that mummies pilfered from Egypt were indeed ground into powder for medicinal use by Europeans. As for the former point, despite his faulty understanding of blood and milk, Boyle's logic remains sound, and his point stands. Are blood drinking and milk drinking really so different? The barrier between the taboo and the norm has always been a fragile thing.
Exit narrator. Eugenius and Lindamore unfreeze and continue as if no interruption occurred.
And if we plead that we use not mummy for food but physic, the Indians may easily answer that by our way of using man's flesh, we do oftentimes but protract sickness and pain, whereas they by theirs maintain their health and vigor. And there is no reason why it should be allowable to eat broth, for instance, in a consumption, and be condemnable to feed upon it to maintain health. But lastly, as the highest degree of brutishness, our travelers mention the practice of the Soldanians at the Cape of Good Hope, who not only eat raw meat, but if they be hungry, eat the guts and all of their cattle with the dung in them. I will not answer that I know several among us, and perhaps some fair ladies too, that to prevent the scurvy and the gout drink their own or boys' urine, nor that women themselves do oftentimes take parmacetti inwardly, though the Latin name spermaceti sufficiently declares what excretion of a whale it is, though perhaps mistakenly believed to be. Nor yet under that name of album gressum, dog's dung is commonly given to patients of all sorts and qualities against sore throats. Nor will I mention that in Holland 'tis usual, as I have seen myself, to mingle sheep's dung with their cheeses, only to give them a colour and a relish. But I will rather demand how much less we do ourselves, and what we abominate in those savages, when we devour oysters whole, guts, excrements, and all, nay, when not for physic, but only for delicacies, our courtiers and ladies themselves are wont to make sauce for the bodies of lobsters of that green stuff, which is indeed their dung, and to these I could add other examples, if I were not afraid to divert you too long from so much pleasure as the company seems to take in eating raw fish.
A moment of quiet passes, during which Eugenius's expression of disgust becomes one of amusement. Lindamore, finally noticing his friend's loss of appetite, appears ashamed and poised to apologize, but Eugenius stops him with a curt headshake and a small smile, hands raised in a placating manner. Lindamore visibly relaxes. A beat. The two gentlemen look down at the uneaten oysters on their plates and break into quiet laughter. After a moment, Eugenius tilts his head toward offstage, casting an inquiring glance at Lindamore, who nods. They stand to leave and begin walking offstage. Exit Eugenius. Enter waiter. Lindamore pauses at the edge of the stage as the waiter moves to clear the table. After a moment's hesitation, Lindamore addresses the audience.
I doubt that most nations, in styling one another's manners extravagant and absurd, are guided more by education and partiality than reason, and that we laugh at many customs of strangers only because we never were bred to them, and prize many of our own only because we never considered them. And we may well believe that custom has much a larger empire than men seem to be aware of, since whole nations are wholly swayed by it, that do not reckon themselves among its subjects, nor so much as dream that they are so.
Exit Lindamore. The waiter, now alone, looks at the audience and says nothing. The lights go out. End of play. Thank you. That was so good, you guys.
All right, and last up for you tonight, we have Seasonal Visits by Leiana Petlewski, directed by Jenna Katie. The role of M will be played by Abby Weinman, and the role of R will be played by Dawson Oliver. Enjoy.
Seasonal Visits by Leiana Petlewski. Characters: M, played by Abby Weinman, a woman in her late 20s/early 30s. R, played by Dawson Oliver, a person in their late 20s/early 30s. Evening. You're muted, darling.
Thank you. Oh, thanks for coming over. It was really nice to see you and catch up.
Oh, you betcha. We don't get to see each other much without the others around, you know. Thought I'd take the chance.
Oh, yeah. Now's a good time to do it, too. Early enough in the season before that whole mess starts. Well, you know what I mean.
Okay, well, I better get going before it gets too late.
Oh, yeah, of course. Don't want you driving home too late.
R starts to collect their things and puts their jacket on. They shove their feet in their snow boots and take their gloves out of the pockets of their jacket. They're now standing by the door.
Well, guess I'm ready then.
Guess so.
M pauses, then smiles and moves closer to R so she can reach around them to unlock the door. They pause and look at each other, almost chest to chest.
Well, how would you feel about just one more drink?
Oh, now I really shouldn't.
No, you're right.
No, why not?
Oh, all right, super.
They move back towards the kitchen. R sits at the counter and checks their watch while M looks in the cupboard at what's available to make mixed drinks.
Would you like a mixed drink this time? I just bought some spiced rum that tastes really super with some pineapple juice.
M pops her head around the side of the cupboard door to peer at R.
Oh, no, I know liquor can be bad. Slow down the whole process. I'll just take another beer, thanks.
Oh, sure. Pretty early in the season to be worrying about that. And besides, I thought they debunked that whole myth a while ago.
Well, never can be too careful, you know.
M goes to the fridge and takes out a bottle of beer. She expertly uses the edge of the counter to pop the bottle cap off and hands it to R in one swift motion.
Thanks.
M watches R drink for a moment and then goes back to the fridge for another beer and does the same thing for herself.
Did I tell you about the dream I had the other night?
No, I don't think you did.
Oh, well, it was a strange one, I can tell you that.
R checks their watch.
Oh, yeah.
Very strange.
Why don't you
It started with this weird factory setting, and I was the only one there. And then all of a sudden, everything started happening at once. People were bustling about everywhere. Lights were on, carts were being pushed. And suddenly there's this man shoving me on stage and telling me, you're on, you have to go now. And obviously I'm confused because I don't know what's going on. And then I'm in the middle of this huge stage and the whole audience is looking at me. And all these tap dancers come on stage and start tap dancing around me. And I can tell I'm supposed to know the dance moves, but no one seems to notice that I don't. And I'm panicking and my body starts, even though it's way too early in the season for that, you know. And then I woke up and that was it.
Huh? Now that is a strange one.
You're telling me. Thought I was past the age where I'd get stress dreams about it, but I guess not.
They drink in silence for a bit.
You know, I had a pretty strange dream the other night too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. See, I was in my apartment and I was looking around for my cat to feed my cat. And then I was like, wait a second, I don't have a cat.
Huh. Yeah, that is a bit of a strange one.
They drink in silence for a bit. R finishes their bottle and checks their watch.
I'm just going to use your bathroom real quick since I do have that drive back.
Oh, sure. You
I'll
know
be
where it
just
is.
a minute.
As R is washing their hands, they notice the skin on their wrist start to fall off.
Oh shit, not now. I knew this would happen.
R tries to cover it up by pulling their sleeves lower and walks back into the kitchen as if nothing is wrong.
So I was thinking that I have a couch and some extra pillows and...
You know, I really ought to get going. It's getting pretty late.
Oh, sure, of course.
R makes their way toward the door again.
Well, thanks again for everything.
You betcha, anytime. Say, I've been meaning to ask you before you go, are you headed down south this year?
Oh, no, I haven't messed with that in quite some time. Now that the suits are more affordable and we all have good heating systems up here, I just don't see the point anymore.
Oh, now that makes sense. Certainly saves a lot of money too with all that travel and hassle. I usually just stay up here for many of the same reasons, but one of my best friends has a property down there and invited me to come with this year. I hear Florida is lovely this time of year, and I think the whole ordeal is better with company, don't you know?
R checks their watch.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. And it's getting a bit late, but I guess I'll sit down for just a couple more minutes. I tend to prefer my solitude. It gives me time to think. Actually, I don't think I've had company since it was my brother growing up. I can't imagine doing it with a friend, really. I think it might just be too shy to come out of my shell. No pun intended.
R checks their watch.
Gosh, remember when the first suits came out to own at home?
Oh, I sure do. Although it doesn't feel like too long ago. I sure wish we would have waited to buy one till the price went down. That sure cost me a pretty penny.
Oh, now I didn't know you bought an early one. First or second edition?
Sure did, first edition, and it still works like a dream. I don't need all those fancy extra features included in the new ones. I'm a simple person.
That's fair, but I do enjoy getting a bit of the extra moisturizer they provide now. Keeps me looking younger.
Well, I think you look mighty fine no matter what age you are. I really ought to be going. I'm not feeling 100% and I'm worried I might not make the drive home.
Oh, well, that's not good at all. Are you okay? Are you sure you don't want me to just stay here? Like I said, I have extra pillows and medicine for whatever you need.
R contemplates for a minute and does some mental calculations.
Listen, I'd really love to.
R moves closer to M.
But I'm sorry, I really can't. I promise it's nothing against you. I should probably just head home.
Oh, of course. I didn't mean to be pushy at all. I just...
Oh, no, not at all.
R moves towards the door again and begins to layer back up to brave the outside.
Oh, you know, I totally forgot to tell you about this new daguerreotype I found at that antique store we liked the other day.
R checks their watch and notices that more layers of skin have fallen, leaving a mess and a small pool of blood inside their jacket. They realize they need to stop checking their watch, but are unable to resist the tempting offer.
Oh, now you know I have to come back and look at that. I suppose it's not too late out quite yet.
R follows M into the hallway and stops in the doorway of the bedroom, where they watch M very carefully and dramatically pull out a small daguerreotype encased in a protective case.
Oh, come over here. Take a gander at the lovely thing.
R hesitantly allows themselves to be drawn across the carpeted room to peer over M's shoulder at the antique.
Oh, now she is a beauty, all right. Look at that.
Both stare lovingly at the photo as if it was a newborn.
Would you like to hold it for a closer look?
Oh, I wouldn't want to ask a thing like that. Are you sure?
Oh, sure. I trust you. I know you'll treat it with care.
R gingerly takes it out of M's hands and turns it toward the light to get a better look.
Oh, wow. It's even more clear than I had imagined. This is probably the best condition I've ever seen one in. A real one, that is.
Oh, really? That's just super. I guess it's an even better find than I thought.
Oh, yeah. You see, daguerreotypes are incredibly fragile underneath the glass. Without that protective outer layer of breakable glass acting like the epidermis of the skin, even the slightest brush can mar the surface of the delicate silver-plated copper sheet, leaving it scarred forever.
Oh, really? Well, now that must be why no one tries to make these anymore. Just too dang tricky, the little buggers.
Well, that, among other reasons. One of them being that in order to make the latent image on the sheet visible, it has to be treated with mercury vapor, which unfortunately is just a no-go nowadays.
Oh, yeah, that's certainly not good for one's complexion now, is it?
Well, that's partially how you can tell if an image is an actual daguerreotype or just an ambrotype or tintype. But daguerreotypes were only popular for less than 20 years in the mid-1800s, and almost all daguerreotypes are tarnished around the edges or damaged in some way, which is why this one right here is such a rare and treasured find.
R hands the image back to M.
Well, thanks for sharing that with me. It was a lovely treat. I'm just jealous you're the one that found it and not me.
Oh, I'm sure you'll come across an even better one very soon.
Oh, I can only hope so.
R follows M out of the bedroom and notices that blood is beginning to drip from their jacket sleeve and onto the carpet.
Well, I really best be going now. I'm going to head out to the car, but thank you again for everything. Like I said, it was a real treat, and it was real nice to be able to see you again.
R makes a move for the door, but M stops in front of it before they can get there.
All righty. Well, let me just give you a hug before you head out, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
I don't have to. It's all right if not.
No, I'd love to. I love one.
They move to hug, but in that moment, the full process begins, and it's too late for R.
But it's much too early. What's going on?
I'm sorry. I tried to leave. I just wanted to stay a little bit longer.
All of R's skin begins to shed as their molting season has begun. All of their skin slides off and blood begins to spill all over the floor and M, and the rest of their body collapses in a heap.
I'm sorry.
Blackout.
That was great, you all. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and just another thank you to all of our playwrights and actors and directors and to everybody who tuned in to watch this tonight. We really appreciate it, still being able to make some form of art. So yeah, that was all of them, and everybody have a great rest of your night, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.